The title we'll be discussing today is World Without Mind, The Existential Threat of Big Tech by Franklin Foer. This overview is from the book jacket. Over the past few decades, there has been a revolution in terms of who controls knowledge and information. This rapid change has imperiled the way we think. We shop with Amazon, socialize on Facebook, turn to Apple for entertainment, and rely on Google for information. These four companies, according to Foer, have produced an unstable and narrow culture of misinformation and put us on a path to a world without private contemplation, autonomous thought, or solitary introspection, a world without mind. We'll draw a name to receive a complimentary copy of World Without Mind after our Q&A today. And our guest reviewer is Nick Francesco, host of the call-in radio show Soundbites and Chief Technical Officer of My Minds. Welcome to Nick. Thank you.
Let me start by apologizing for sitting. It's not out of disrespect to any of you. While the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. And so I will be sitting, and again, I apologize for that. I've lost my clicker. There it is. This is World Without Mind by Franklin Foer. And we'll talk a little bit about the book itself and his premises and his opinions, and we'll talk about where we are and how we got there and what we can do about it. The premise here is that for the past few decades, there has been this revolution in terms of knowledge and of information. And it's been a very rapid change. And it has had a deep impact on the way we think. And it's convenient, certainly extremely convenient, to be able to go to Google and ask it anything, to go to Facebook and blah, blah, blah. But we don't think about the cost of doing that, and there is a cost. The big four, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google, to put them in alphabetical order. One of my favorite phrases is an intoxicating level of daily convenience. It is so easy to go into Facebook or to Apple or to find the music and to Google and ask it things, that we often don't stop and think skeptically anymore. We see that in our journalists, who also don't think skeptically anymore. Too often we look at, we watch a television news broadcast or listen to a radio news broadcast or whatever, and at some point they say, and on Google they say, or on Twitter or on Facebook, unless it's like the author or the person involved in the story, I don't really care what happened on Facebook or on Twitter. But we see that a lot. And of course, we all talk about it. We all talk about, those of us of a certain age, or an uncertain age, we talk about the lack of privacy, the lack of a sense of privacy that the young people all have. I have friends who are my age who have never met a Facebook quiz they didn't take. You know, God forbid they go to sleep without knowing their elf name. And in getting their elf name, they've given away their middle name, maybe their phone number. My favorite one, there was a phone push button, I guess I call them dials. Shows how old I am. And it had, sex, money, power, love, whatever. And it said the last 3 digits of your phone number are what you're going to get in 2018. So people are writing, great, I'm getting sex, X, money. I'm getting power, friendship, love. I now know the last 3 digits of your phone number. That's not me. I muted my phone. Because I thought this was more important. Oh, sorry. And so I know the last 2 digits of your phone number. I can make an awfully good guess at your area code unless you took another quiz and told me your area code, and et cetera, et cetera. People are doing this all the time. And it's not just young people who are posting, wow, I made the walk of shame last night, or man, was I drunk yesterday, or whatever. It's all of us. We're all doing it. Can't wait to go to Bermuda. Well, thank you. Now I know when you're not going to be home for 2 weeks. Excellent. And we all do it. We've become a world without mind, and that's Mr. Foer's whole premise. So, and knowledge and information, he talks a lot about where we get our knowledge and where does our information come from. And increasingly, we get it through what's called the echo chamber. We all at least heard about the Mark Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, being on in front of Congress last week, and how they make assumptions for us. And just to take one simple assumption, they make assumptions as to whether you are liberal or conservative or a neo-Nazi or whatever it is you are. And they then feed you more stories that reinforce your bias. That's called the echo chamber. And if you never hear opposing views, you tend to think there are no opposing views. And it's a real problem that we all only see and hear what makes us feel good, which is, of course, Facebook's entire point. You have to remember, this goes to who do we trust? Do we actually trust Facebook? Yeah, many of us do. We say, well, I saw that on Facebook. Seriously? And why do we trust them? You have to remember something. As far as Facebook is concerned, you are not the customer. Their advertisers are Facebook's customer. You are the product they sell to their customers. So they don't care what you see as long as you keep watching it. So if you are a Trump supporter and they keep sending you things that say Trump is a moron, you're going to stop watching Facebook. Which is bad for them because then their customers lose product. So if you are a Trump supporter, you're going to see, oh my God, Trump, what an amazing human being. He's the best thing we've ever had, better than laser sliced bread. This is our guy. And then you go back and you go back and you go back, and they've got a product to sell to their customer. And yet we all seem to, oh, this has a, look at you, ooh, we still seem to trust them. And his point is, maybe we shouldn't. You know, why do we trust them? Just because they're there? The ability to have a soapbox doesn't actually make your opinion important, said the guy sitting up here. I get that. But anybody can create a website and put up whatever utter dreck they want on it. And the more people they get to look at it, the more important they are. So the echo chamber, I already talked a little bit about the echo chamber. And what happens is it narrows our horizons. instead of seeing the world, we see the echo chamber. We put blinders on. And the more we watch the echo chamber, the more those blinders close in. Well, it must be true. I saw it on Fox News. And that could have been anything. It could be any. I just happen to use Fox News because I hate them. But the point here is that it could have been any news outlet. It used to be. Remember Walter Cronkite? If Walter Cronkite said the moon is actually made of green cheese and it's coming to Earth, get out your knives and forks, we'd all have the bib and tucker on and we'd be ready. We believed him. We believed he had integrity. And in fact, if you look back at everything that he said over the decades, he pretty much did. It's not to say he didn't make mistakes too, but he pretty much did. Now, sorry, John, I don't believe anybody on television, on the radio, on the news. I don't believe any of them. I don't even believe me. I'm on the radio, and I don't believe me. It's gotten to the point where we've completely abrogated our right to truth for our need to be reinforced in whatever we believed this morning. And this is one of my favorite quotes from Mark Twain, from Innocents Abroad. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. I really like that. So basically, we have 4 Titanic corporations, and these are the 4 that Mr. Fuller says we have all embraced, and he's right. We shop on Amazon. Who here does not shop on Amazon? Really? Wow. This whole audience just skewed way off of mainstream America. That's simply true. You people are outliers in the extreme at this point. But everybody except you people apparently shop on Amazon. It's where it's so easy. I did all my Christmas shopping on Amazon. Well, I don't go wandering around in malls anymore. And so it was just easier for me to go, oh, I get those. And then, of course, I looked at what I had gotten and said, well, maybe I don't need that. But we shop on Amazon, and Amazon knows what we like. And so Amazon will show us what we like. Again, the echo chamber. And then the people who bought. Sometimes I think, really? You bought this and then you bought that too? What's wrong with you? We go to Apple for entertainment. Apple has had cornered the entertainment market. You wanted a movie, you went to Apple and bought it. You wanted music, you went to Apple and bought it. That's where you got that stuff. Nowadays we have Spotify and Pandora and things like that where people also get their music. Some of us still buy something that used to be called a CD or a vinyl album. I don't know if any of you remember those. I still have some wax cylinders signed by Edison. And we go to Facebook to socialize. I have 12,000 friends on Facebook. Really? How many of them will loan you money? How many of them will come and pick you up when your car dies? I have a different definition of friendship than apparently you do. And we've all seen that. I've only got 6 friends on Facebook. You just were at a party with 25 people, all of whom were celebrating your birthday. What do you mean you only have 6 friends? And Google, we go to Google for information. Google's motto used to be, do no evil. not so much anymore. Can you trust Google? Depends on what you're looking for. Google's no better than anybody else. And Google includes YouTube and all their other products under the Alphabet label. And so there's just a lot of that. When you go to Google to look at a news story, pay attention to the order those news stories are presented in. There's a bias in that. Now again, with Google, it's a liberal bias, and that may feed your own liberal bias. So you think, oh, this is good. If Fox News came up first, you would think, oh, that's bad. But if NPR comes up first, you think, oh, that's good. It may be good, but it also feeds your bias, which is why you think it's good. So you have to step back. Step back one. Mr. Foyer believes that that's the way that works. And again, this daily convenience thing, they say they're selling efficiency. And through efficiency, they're making the world a better place. Well, it's not efficiency, it's convenience. I will admit that being able to take out my phone and ask Google anything and almost always get an answer is great. And when it's an objective answer, but I'm in the process of buying a 3D printer, and everything is in those evil communist millimeter metric things, which I don't even understand feet. How am I going to understand meters? So I'm constantly saying, I won't say the trigger phrase, but I'm constantly asking Google, convert 120 millimeters to inches. And it'll come back and say 4.7, whatever the number is. Pretty much you can believe that. That's pretty simple. But a lot of other stuff, you get to a point where that convenience goes to other things in the world that maybe you shouldn't necessarily just take somebody's word for. The problem is they're using algorithms. They're using programmable steps that create a result. And they're doing it by programming. So they're certainly not selling efficiency, except their own, the efficiency of their algorithms. They're not selling individuality. They're certainly not selling pluralism. What they're selling is conformity to the algorithm. Don't ask questions, citizen, except of Google. And, of course, the lack of privacy. And algorithms can get people into trouble. Google has discovered that on YouTube. They have a version of YouTube called YouTube Kids. And there was an algorithm that picked what went on YouTube Kids. Well, as it turns out, some very sick people gamed that algorithm, and some things were showing up on YouTube Kids that were really not for the average child. So Google has now said all videos on YouTube Kids will be picked by humans who will actually watch the whole video and see if, in fact, it stops being a cartoon and becomes something else about halfway through. And that's, I think, a good thing. Google is discovering that the algorithm isn't the end-all and be-all, and that sometimes you need a human being in the mix. So what Mr. Foer is saying is that we have a culture of misinformation. It's really partially that, but it's really a culture of biased information. Here's what I believe you need to hear. That may not be misinformation, but really that shouldn't be, I shouldn't be your only source for that. You know, journalists are supposed to get 2 or 3 sources for a story. And journalists, real reporters, investigative reporters, still do. There are a whole lot of not actual investigative reporter, journalist people out there on the news. There's certainly a lack of private contemplation. A lot of people nowadays really don't sit down and think. It's a lot easier to go to Facebook and see what your friends all think. Your friends all think. Or to go to Twitter and see what... Do you know you can go to a site called trends.google.com and see what the hot trends are now? Okay, that's useful in certain ways. I mean, if I want to sell you shoes, I should be able to know what trending colors and et cetera, are out there. But when it comes to actually thinking, maybe you should think for yourself. Just a thought, which I thought for myself. And we have a lack of autonomous thought. We have a lack of solitary introspection. People don't meditate anymore, whether you pray or you meditate or you just sit and quietly think to yourself. Most people don't do it anymore. We get in the car and we turn on the radio. We get in the house and we turn on the television. We sit in front of the computer and we open up Facebook. We don't spend a lot of time inside our own heads anymore. And that's the world without mind. We're not paying attention to ourselves anymore. We're not thinking for ourselves. We're not bringing up our own thoughts. We're just parroting other people's thoughts. If I wanted to parrot, I'd get an African gray. If I want to talk to somebody, I want their opinion. And we have privacy problems. You know, Edward Snowden, the guy who leaked all those top secret NSA documents. On the one hand, very bad thing to do. This is, it's our government, blah, 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 blah. However, it led to a lot of revelations on U.S. surveillance on our phones and on internet communications and made some real and positive changes in the way America is allowed to spy on us. And, of course, there's all the stolen data. 145 million people's financial information stolen from Equifax. So on the one hand, people are saying, what difference does it make what I share? Everything is already out there. Partially, that's actually true. The Federal Communication Commission now lets internet service providers share private customer data with advertisers. And by private customer data, I mean, where did you go on the web yesterday? Dating apps leaking private information. There's the Internet of Things. If you've got, a smart thermostat, if you've got a smart thermostat or smart lights or all of that stuff, those things are vulnerable. Nobody thought to protect those. So if I can get to it, I now own that thermostat. I can start doing whatever I want in your house. Pacemakers, there's a company called St. Jude, used to be called something with an A, and they make pacemakers that also have no security, and they can literally be taken over by anybody. And that's a little more dangerous than somebody getting your lights. Mac OS High Sierra, there was a password stealing attack. So if you've got a password, any passwords at all saved in Mac OS, if you use a Mac, you better start changing your passwords. AccuWeather, they sell your geolocation to people. Uber was secretly recording your phone screen. Many apps do that. Kaspersky Antivirus allegedly was stealing information from government workers' laptops and sending it to Russia. And then, of course, the whole Cambridge Analytica thing. 87 million Facebook users that we know of. And if you want to write that link down, that's the link that you can go to see if your data were shared with Cambridge Analytica. It's not actually accurate. Don't bother. Mostly it says, nope, you're good. And it comes back to trust. Who do you trust? Shakespeare knew you don't trust. Warren Buffett knows it's hard to do trust. Ronald Reagan, the great communicator, said it's shorter than anybody. Well, everybody's shorter than Shakespeare, but still. Trust but verify. That's where we stand with that stuff. Don't take somebody else's word for it. That's Mr. Fuller's thing. Think for yourself. And again, the problem is algorithms. The problem with algorithms is they're created by humans. Humans make mistakes. I don't know if you knew that. Thank God you're sitting. Humans make mistakes, and they create the algorithms. The problem with algorithms, of course, is they run at the speed of a computer. So they make mistakes way faster than we do. Checks and balances should not be automated. I do a radio show called Sound Bites, and we post the show on YouTube. Every week, it gets flagged for copyright violation. We have what's called bumper music. When we come in from a break, there's a little bit of music that plays. When we go out to a break, there's a little bit of music that plays. That's called bumpers. The radio station I'm at, Jazz 90.1, pays a bucket load of cash every year to use legally all of those all that bumper music in every medium. So we're covered on YouTube, but there's no way to tell the people at YouTube that. So every week, there's an algorithm that says, well, you used a song. And we have to then go and say, no, look, we're legal. Every week. I already talked about YouTube Kids. And Russian trolls. We've all heard about the Russian trolls. There's 1 million of them trying to shape and warp your perceptions to make them happier. We used to call that propaganda. Now we call it Facebook. And we see it not just in Facebook, but in ads. A lot of them Google ads. Google actually is pretty good about killing those ads, but they still get out there. Again, it happens at computer speed. If I pay for a Google ad, it goes out there and some algorithm checks it. But by the time the algorithm finishes checking it, 1 million people have seen it. So what do? Well, Mr. Fuller has some ideas. Stop sharing everything. Stop believing everything you read. Be a skeptic. Be a cynic. Cynics are rarely disappointed. That's funny. It's also true. Particularly if something actually feeds your prejudice, immediately suspect it. Immediately. Go and check things. Think for yourself. Do a little research for yourself. And really, take Facebook off your phone. It's following you. It's not listening to you. It doesn't sit and listen to you. But it does follow you. It knows where you go and what you do. So does Google. So does Apple. You know, if you're 1984, George Orwell. If somebody had told him we will voluntarily buy for ourselves and carry around with us all day a device that lets the government track us, he would have laughed in our faces. We all do it. We all do it. If you have a browser that you're using for Facebook, use a different browser for everything else, because Facebook has something called a universal cookie, which tracks you even when you're not on Facebook. And stop taking those stupid Facebook quizzes. Just stop. Pay attention to what you put on your phones. Trust no one. X-File fans here? Just because it's entertainment doesn't mean it's wrong. Trust no one. Ronald Reagan. Trust but verify. And do your own research. There's a site called Snopes, Snopes.com, and they're one of the very good sites that debunks lots and lots of stuff. If you are a fan of the alt-right, you hate Snopes because it's fake news. Well, what it actually is debunking all that crap you're seeing on Facebook. About 99% of the time, they're right. They make mistakes like everybody else, but mostly they're right. Google it, but again, when you Google something, engage your brain before you just randomly believe the first link, which is, by the way, is almost always an ad. Look for a reputable source. I'll let you think of yourself what a reputable source actually is. Broaden your horizons. Again, like Mark Twain said, take off the blinders. Look at the big picture. Travel, even if it's just around this area. Meet people, talk to humans. Get off the computer, talk to human beings. And stop being gullible. That's the big thing. Somebody says something to you, particularly if we know them. The problem with something like Facebook is we do it in our own homes, where we are safe, where we are comfortable. And so when somebody says X, we're sitting there relaxed, we're in our underwear, we're drinking an adult beverage, and we're thinking, oh yeah, X. Your real thought should be, really, X? Maybe not. Let me check that. Or just ignore it if you're too busy to check it. And that's Mr. Fuller's point with all of this. I'm almost done. I apologize. I went long. That's Mr. Fuller's point about all this. Stop being gullible. Think for yourselves. Understand the motivation behind companies like Amazon and Apple and Facebook and Google. Understand that none of them have your best interest at heart. Understand that you are the product. And like any product, sometimes they get damaged in shipping and nobody cares. And that's his point. We'll take a short break to get rid of that. Thank you very much. Thank you.